So gamers continue to rise up. You know, the whole thing is funny, and I think it shows that there's no force on earth stronger than weaponized autism and neats with a lot of time on their hands. The funniest part I think about the whole thing is there's an expression meme magic is real, where if people kind of meme something and some people joke about stuff, it's also called neo sincerity. They start to believe in it. And sometimes memes, like even if they're absurd and crazy, reality winds up reflecting them. Like the whole NPC meme would be an example of this. Orange Man bad, that kind of thing. And it does make sense because memes are based on reality, so I guess reality would also align to memes. But you're just seeing a lot of that right now. So obviously the biggest meme at the moment is the whole Gamers Rise Up thing. So Gamers Rise Up is something we got from Gamergate, which was largely, I think it was initially started out as being something serious, but then it quickly devolved into a joke. So, I mean, there's different opinions on Gamergate. In some cases, you can say it was a success because it got a lot of people who weren't interested in politics interested in politics. In particular, a lot of people who would go on to form the alt and dissident right kind of got their start during Gamergate. On the other hand, it didn't really achieve any of its objectives. It didn't stop the like forced diversity and destruction of video games. And basically, like I think just to maybe take a step back, video games were kind of the last male safe space. They were a medium where it was a power fantasy. You could be a soldier or a warrior or something like that, and there were hot women, and you would save the world, and it was just kind of a very male power fantasy. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but more or less, SJWs and the Great Awakening came from video games and destroyed video games. And Gamergate was like them rising up and trying to stop it. Also, it was about ethics in video game journalism because journalists were giving reviews to all these horrible games that no one liked just because they had left wing messages in them. So Gamers Rise Up kind of became a meme for the ineffectiveness of Gamergate. Gamers also become a synonym for, I guess you could say, white people, particularly white males, and more specifically, I guess you could say far right people, alt right people, dissident right people. It's kind of like the whole in Minecraft thing, which people say when they're saying something illegal, but they're doing this kind of implausible deniability. It's like I'm gonna blow something up in Minecraft, which is kind of a it's a meme. It's kind of a funny attempt to get out of saying something illegal. But yeah, so gamers kind of in that way. I know whenever I do my dissident rights study, I'll often get a couple people who put gamer down as their race, and I normally just recode them as being white. But yeah, so you had Gamers Rise Up, and that was a meme that's been going for quite some time. And it's funny because gamers actually did rise up. So maybe to take a step back, I'm sorry, I've looked into it. I don't exactly understand how short selling works. But from my understanding, basically a bunch of hedge funds betted against GameSpot that the stock would go way down, and the stock didn't want. And they were betting that I think GameStop would basically collapse. And a bunch of guys on Wall Street bets decided they were going to break the hedge funds, kind of like Ivan Drago. So um, they got together and then they bought a massive amount of GameStop stock. And that wound up raising the price, and it completely screwed over the hedge funds in terms of their short selling. And a lot of people just find stuff like short selling to be really sleazy. I think the biggest problem people have with Wall Street is none of it makes sense to the average person. None of it probably makes sense to someone who's like decently educated. You just have all these like weird financial methods that go on behind the scenes. Most people don't really know what they are. They just kind of feel the consequences of them. Like you get into, I don't know, credit default squats and um fractional. Well, no, actually, fractional reserve banking makes sense. It's like credit default swaps. There's like shorting, betting, all kinds of just stuff. Sorry, I couldn't think of more off the top of my head, but there's all these weird financial terms, and you can't explain it to the average person. And it just comes across that they're just inventing money out of thin air, and they're using it to get wealthy. And in the meantime, people are just getting like they'll see the effects of it. Like they'll see companies collapse, they'll see jobs get shipped overseas, and then they'll see these people getting rich for seemingly no reason. And I mean, I guess to me and to a lot of people, it's one thing if you see someone like Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos, even, or Steve Jobs get rich, and you may hate these people, you may think they're bad people, or they had immoral business practices. But you can say, like, Steve Jobs and Bill Gates revolutionized personal computing. Microsoft produces a lot of stuff. You may not like the stuff Microsoft produces, but it produces Xbox, it produces computers, it produces hardware, it produces obviously Windows. Apple produces Macs. It revolutionized how music is bought and sold, or I guess rather sold. And Amazon's revolutionized the delivery industry. Once again, you can talk about subsidies or say there's immoral business practices, but at the end of the day, you can say, what does Amazon do? And someone can explain it in a sentence. But when you get into these like hedge funds, people just don't even know what they are really. People don't really understand what stocks are supposed to represent. It just comes across to them, rightly or wrongly, as a bunch of elites who have open contempt for them, fucking them over in order to make immense sums of money. So the decision was kind of made is we're going to call them on their bullshit. We're going to use their own methods against them. We're going to basically take down the hedge funds by calling their bluff. So you had a mass number of people who bought Gamestop, and it's put the value of the stock from, what was it again? How much was it at? Like uh four to $12 last year, up to over $300 this year. So it's up like 100 times what it was previously. And so I think the banks are on the hedge funds are on the hook to pay for that. And I've seen pictures of people crying, people saying that they're in trouble. I've seen some of them start to advocate for a bailout. A lot of people are saying it's unfair. It's insider trading. And the perception, rightly or wrongly, is you have a lot of immensely wealthy people who make money doing things nobody understands or the average person doesn't understand, fucking over people and pocketing the difference. And when people see stuff like that and they see them crying and they see them bitching and they see them complaining, they take pleasure in that, and they want to screw them over further because they're getting back at the people who they believe screwed them over. And there's always been a lot of resentment against Wall Street ever since the financial collapse of the or the Great Depression and Black Friday. But you periodically get this stuff where, rightly or wrongly, it's blamed on massive risks that have been undertaken to generate huge profits. And in particular, a lot of people, there's still lasting resentment from the financial crisis of the late 2000s, where a stream of extremely risky, immoral, and probably illegal activities, or I mean, actually, we know it's illegal activities, more or less crashed the global economy. And there was a widespread feeling that the banks and the people responsible pulled. If you're familiar with the trope, there's a trope called a karma Houdini, where generally speaking, in most fiction, they try to have some sort of catharsis where the guilty party or the evil party receives some form of punishment for their crimes. And theoretically, that's supposed to happen in real life to a certain extent. If you kill someone, you go to jail. But I don't know if anyone went to jail in the States for everything that happened. Most of the banks either got bailed out or reconstituted, and there was this perception that they had more or less escaped justice, gotten a bunch of taxpayers' money, and then gone back to just doing what they were doing beforehand. And so the scenario we have now is, like I said, you have in a public forum, because Wall Street Bets is public, you can just go on there. Anyone can go on there. Anyone can go on there at any time and read it. And the narrative that's been coming out of the media and that's been coming out of the financial sector is that this is illegal. That, and I keep stressing this point, that basically it's illegal for retail investors, that is just normal people who buy through brokerage accounts, to buy these stocks. It's illegal for them to discuss buying these stocks and to buy them, because that's manipulation. I don't really get how that's like manipulation or illegal. I mean, are you not allowed to talk to people? Like, if you sit around the dinner table and you're like, "Hey, mom, I think that Bell Telephone is going to go up. Why I'm going to buy some?" And then she's like, "Well, son, I'm going to buy some too." So I guess what they're saying is that's illegal. Um, or if, like, I don't know, you're in class, you're talking about the stock market as part of an education, the teacher's like, "Yeah, I have some shares in ExxonMobil because they pay out good dividends." So, like, they're stating that that's illegal, more or less. I don't think that's like arguable. I think that's the objective situation that we find ourselves in at the moment. So that is what they're claiming, and that's obviously pissing a lot of people off, because it's like, "Oh, well, you guys can do stuff behind the scenes that's actually insider trading, that's actually all this sort of thing." And I think this is also pretty common among senators, where they'll get information before the public gets it and use it to make money on the stock market, which is probably illegal. I don't know the exact financial laws, but that sounds illegal to me. But these people, you can't let them just buy stocks. This is a capitalist country. You can't buy and sell things legally above the board in a capitalist country. And I've seen some people say, "Well, these people are going to have to pay capital gains taxes, so they shouldn't be allowed to buy and sell because of capital gains taxes." And it's like, well, just they could just pay their tax. They probably will just pay their taxes. I mean, if it's that complicated to pay your capital gains taxes, isn't that the issue? Rather than the fact that people are making enough money. And the new narrative I'm seeing come out of CBC is it's not actually small investors, it's actually the banks running a gay 24-hour op and pretending to be the investors. So Wall Street Bets is largely composed of bots or bank employees or people in India they're paying as a way of manipulating the stock price. So it's like a hedge fund is behind this, and that's like one of the gayest of gay ops I've ever heard in my entire life. And then what you had in the aftermath of the complaining is suddenly all the trading apps develop problems. Even the ones that didn't directly ban anything, they went down. They had technical issues. They were just like, "Look, guys, it's too hard. We have this app designed for trading, and people are trading on our app, and it's just too much. I mean, we aren't built to handle this volume of stuff, and even ones put out by trillion-dollar companies, like, we can't handle this level of trade." I mean, you seem to be under the impression that if you want to purchase a good or service from us, we're going to sell you the good or service, and that's how we make money. We don't make money selling goods or services. You plebs should be grateful that you have some sort of chance, even, to maybe buy something from us at some point. And that's more or less the way they think. And a lot of them, to protect their buddies on Wall Street, I don't know why else, have shut or trying to shut down the trading of these equities. There's GameStop, AMC, I think Nokia, and BlackBerry are all. A lot of them are not delisting them, but they're not letting people buy them. They're saying, "Oh, it's too risky. We have to protect people from themselves." You mean like you did any number of times with Wall Street in the past? And it's so hypocritical, and it shows such a contempt for the average person. Is this stuff super risky and are a lot of people involved going to get burned? Yeah. I'm going to be honest, and I guess this is illegal. If I was in GameStop, I would have sold a long time ago because you have to quit while you're still ahead, I think. And a lot of people, particularly the people who bought at a higher price, are probably going to lose a lot of money. But once again, if we're going to make the pretense we're living in a capitalist free market system, that's their decision. Um, I mean, if we want to have a state directed economy, like China, well, not even like China, like what France used to have, Dearsme, or however you pronounce it. Well, then that I'm open to discussion. But if we're gonna have this free market economy where banks and hedge funds can just fuck people, then it goes both ways, and you don't have the right to cry and complain and go to the government and try to shut people down. To try to do cancel culture in the fucking financial industry, because that's all this is. It's just a bunch of babies bitching that someone beat them at their own game. So fuck them. Fuck everybody who's bitching about this. I see all these people calling them like hooligans and like insulting them and saying, "Oh, these aren't serious people." When did the intention of someone buying a stock have anything to do with it? It's like, oh, this person's gonna buy a stick of gum and he appreciates the stick of gum. This other person doesn't appreciate the stick of gum. Like, what kind of nonsensical thinking is that? But that's the way these people think, because once again, they have nothing but the purest, most profound contempt for you personally. They think you're a troll. They think you aren't worth anything. You aren't allowed to participate in this. It's there, but you're not allowed to get involved. And once again, a lot of people are going to lose a lot of money. A lot of people are behaving in a very irresponsible way, in my opinion. But I don't really see how that's any of Wall Street's business. And if the entire financial industry is going to collapse because a bunch of spurgs on Reddit decided to buy a stock, isn't that the problem we should be talking about? Rather than any sort of, I don't know, any sort of other thing? I just don't get it, guys. It's fucked. But stay strong, guys. Try to stay safe. It's insane out there these days.